Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new series that aims at making you experience different airsoft guns. As a first installment of the series, I could not help myself but to look at the infamous Desert Eagle. This particular model is made by WE Cybergun and cost me just under £200. Going tip to butt in a famous GT style, we face the slide. Pulling it back feels easy as the spring just cannot resist the mighty hefty slide. What is more impressive is how far back it goes. This Desert Eagle has a full range of motion just like on the real deal. Releasing the slide, however, feels a little cheap due to the weaker spring tension. When it does lock into battery, a distinct clang is heard, and although it's not as volumetric as it's portrayed in video games, it still puts a smile on my face. A more satisfying way to lock the slide is by releasing the slide lock. With the spring tensed up at its limit, ready to slam the slide forward, it makes it all the more satisfying to have that slide lock notch be pushed down just a few more millimeters. Slide lock itself is spacious and places itself just underneath your thumb. It remains at a sturdy upward force, yet it's not too hard to release. Safety switch has an ambidextrous nature and it's very stiff when you try to switch fire modes. Stiff to the point where I had to use it from both sides. However, once it locks into position, it feels very loose and doesn't require much force to fiddle it about. Trigger's short and stiff travel makes it very easy to know when your gun will fire. It allows about 1 to 2 millimeters of free play before the gun shows you its ready zone. A significant amount of resistance can be felt in this zone, which is then abruptly broken by a tactile hammer release. You feel it vibrate for a split second when it goes off, and it's not just in the trigger finger, but in your whole hand. And then a satisfying click is heard once the hammer hits it home. The trigger release guides your finger out of the stiff zone to restart its internal mechanisms and generally just feels a bit sluggish if released too slowly. Now, the button mag release stays classic to the real reference, but it simply just does not do the gun justice design-wise. Ugly circular button that requires you to re-grip the gun to reach it. An uncomfortable spring pressure is felt when your thumb tries to squeeze the button down. Once you do hit it though, a dense, hefty magazine lazily slides out of the mag well, begging for you to catch it, and the gun becomes what feels like a feather. Inserting the magazine back in is easy under the right angle, right up until you hit the mag release notch inside. When you hit that point, it feels like a solid wall is refusing to accept the magazine being inserted into the gun. Forcing the mag further really tells you what kind of gun you're dealing with, as it works its way up, resisting the stiffness and scruffiness of the gun inside, all to come to a quiet click at the very end of its destination. Gripping the gun by the main handle is like gripping a calculator in terms of dimensions. A very smooth and round calculator. Only issue I have with the handle is its plastic grips. They feel cheap and unstable on the metal body of the gun, although it does take a good amount of force to really feel that. This gun uses green gas to power its internals, and boy is it making the most of it. Compared to a snappy CO2 powered pistol, this feels a little bit slower, feels a bit smoother, a little bit weightier, and more inertially charged, if you get what I mean. You feel the hefty slide go back, you feel the inertia. Recoil itself is not that hard. The kick is not snappy, but it glides. It feels like it's a heavy load that glides along a plane all the way towards you, and it locks back forward once it's done its full travel. Feels good, man. Center of mass is evenly distributed along the gun, but if I really had to pick a location, I'd say it's somewhere in the rear of the slide. Overall, the gun is built solid. Its metal body gives it a sturdy feel. However, if you listen very closely, a minuscule amount of rattle can be heard inside, but I stand by the earlier point. Either way, it gets a solid 8 out of 10 on the feel rating. Spectacular quality, but a little bit underwhelming on the details. The kick is not snappy. The kick itself is not slappy.